Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting with the Magnificent Seven. We'll start off with introductions. Lou, why don't you go ahead and start? Want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Lou Schildmeyer. I'm the principal owner of Lou S. Design Associates. I've been in the F&B space my whole career since 1980. I've had my own company, Lou S. Design Associates, since 2002. And I'm very specialized. I'm different from the other men in the group. There are six in the fact that I do the front of the house design and lighting design, as well as the food and beverage, back of the house food service consulting design. So that's pretty much me, and take it on to Colin.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Colin, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm the founder and managing member of Admiral Services. We are professional and technical services to the architectural engineering construction industry, providing services and manpower. We create teams offshore, which we call professional offshore divisions, pods, and provide them for different companies to supplement them for large projects or whatever. I'm a quantity surveyor by profession, and I've been doing this for 49 years now. And I'm not a food and beverage designer. I am everything after design, execution. Once the design is done, that's when we come in. We do the engineering work, we get involved with the project management and the construction, but we don't do design. That's the rest of the team.
Thank you, Colin. Why don't we give Dylan the virtual microphone next?
Oh, thank you very much. Dylan Halazinski, President Bayard Food Service Design, or food service consultant based out of Pittsburgh. I personally am an engineer by education. So when I get into a lot of my food service design projects, like to do a lot of heavy, coordination, engineering coordination, mechanical, and different aspects of the project, including beer systems, and on down the list as well. So food service consultant.
We had me beer systems. Okay, Jim, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you're bringing to the Magnificent Seven?
Sure. Well, good afternoon. My name is Jim Farley, and I'm the principal owner and principal engineer of MC Squared Incorporated. We're based out of Olympia, Washington. We are a structural engineering design and consulting firm. I'm a licensed structural engineer, and I'm personally licensed in 16 states, and our company as a whole is licensed in 26 states. So we cover a broad swath of the United States.
Okay, you must see a lot from region to region. I'm going to have to pick your brain at some point. Garrett, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, thanks, Lance. My name is Garrett Lennon, and I am the principal and owner of JLR Design Group. We are a food service design and consulting firm. We have offices in the Pacific Northwest and Midwest. I'm based out of Oklahoma City, and we've been in business for 31 years, and we've done everything from coffee kiosks to central kitchens. And in my experience in the hospitality industry, I've been in it all my life. Anything from operations to management to sales, contract work, and now consulting. So very happy to be here and part of the Magnificent Seven.
Awesome, and we do have a couple of members that are not here. Lou, can you fill us in on who those gentlemen are?
Yes, the three that were on the first call a few months ago now. We have our bar expert. His name is, excuse me, Rick Uzabel, and Rick's out of Indiana, and he specializes in everything to do with the bar in terms of the layout, but also the systems. So you were talking about beer systems, liquor systems, everything to do with that. So he's very, him and I have done a lot of projects together, kind of like, peanut butter and jelly were restaurant design and bar design. So that's a nice combination too on smaller projects. And then we have our two non-design consultants, which are very important for initial, stages of larger projects to get the scope down and get the scope correct, so we don't have to do a lot of guesswork, and that helps the client with, our fees are less because we know because they've done their due diligence and their pre screening with the clients of the concept and everything. So to the gentleman, one, Craig Pendleton, he is in Surprise, Arizona, and he specializes in larger, and he's been with the tribal casino community. He actually writes an article for a couple tribal magazines every month for Scotch, I think, over 40 years. And then the other gentleman is in Colorado, and his name escapes me right now. Help me. I can't think of Kevin Mull. Thank you, Kevin Mull. And Kevin is, he is more in the legalese and the restaurant side. He would be one that we would bring in for larger, casino projects or, hotel. Yes, but he's more in the space like I am, but he does all the legalese and, a lot of stuff for clients to help start them up and, all their performas and things that help a proof of concept as we do that, if we're involved with that piece of the project. So those
Okay.
are the other gentlemen.
Excellent. I mean, we have a lot of principals and owners here at the table.
Yeah.
How did the Magnificent Seven come to be? I mean, I'm curious.
Well, it's very interesting. It's now been 2 years as of the first part of November. And Colin actually reached out to me, his marketing people, and then him and I talked on the phone. And then we set up, it was supposed to be a half an hour video conference. Well, that turned into an hour and a half. And I have to share this because it's very important for all of us in this group that we're all Christians. We all know the Lord. And we know that Colin and I both know that was a divine appointment. There was many things shared you would not share with people you might not know for 20 years. Very transparent, some personal things. And at the end of it, he said, I want you. You're my guy. I said, well, look, I got some other guys. Let me reach out to them because you got to remember, this is not an LLC. This is not a incorporated company. This is a collaborative organization. So we're all owners. And that sets us apart. And we, the buck stops with each of us with our companies. So we're able to make decisions faster for clients and all that kind of stuff. So as I was going through this, at the end, I was told to stop by the Holy Spirit. I stopped and I counted. Well, I had 6, and then me was 7. And then all of a sudden, thought came to me, 7 is completion in Christian and Jewish terms. And the Magnificent Seven was then given to me as a name. And of course, in the non-religion and non-Christian world, that is, very well known, the original movie, and then it's been remade. And that really struck a lot of people that we've talked to. I know a lot of you guys too. They really like that name, and so we went with that. But then it only took us about a month. And once I got these guys on board, Colin had me get all their, information, pictures, and then his people took it from there and made it to where we could actually do our brochure and launch it. What was that, Colin? February, right? This coming
correct.
February will be 2 years. And so, that's really the impetus behind this. We're here, we're all servants, we're all in the service industry, but we're all specialized in what we do. And for example, Jim was very important as you get into other projects. I've worked with them for 20 some years. You get these large ones, you got a lot of hoods, you got penetrations in the floor, you got all that kind of stuff. And this could be a remodel or things like that. It might be, no structural engineers needed except for our stuff. Well, here we already have somebody, that's very proficient at it. And, I gave him a shout at this project we just did recently. We had to raise the whole area where the hood was going to go, even though I had used a low profile hood. So he was able to structurally raise all the trusses in that area to meet, otherwise we couldn't have done the project. So it's stuff like that, as we all know, we run into that all the time. So that's really, how it came to be. And of course, Colin, with his background of doing outsourcing everywhere in the world except the U.S., and now we have reach, across the country. So that's the exciting part of it. And I know where projects are coming together, and we're going to get a bunch of stuff. I know next year, with the money being less expensive, and there's a lot of pent-up desire has always been in this industry. As I'm not telling anything you guys don't know that. That's just how it is. So I can see us doing, we're probably getting pretty busy next couple of years. So that's it for that.
Thank you, Lou. That does shed some light on it. Colin and I have been speaking for the better part of the last year, and when he told me about this, it kind of blew my mind because you don't see a lot of true collaboration in the industry without somebody marking everything up and piggybacking, right? So, Colin, why don't you tell us how this aligns with Admore and your services that everybody knows you for?
Yeah, okay. Well, my background really over the last 40 odd years has been hotel construction and high-end retail and super yachts. So all in the and we've in all of that work, F&B has always been there. Like I just finished the Fontainebleau Hotel last December. That we had 38 restaurants in there. So I've always been dealing with restaurants, the chefs, the owners, the different people, and obviously on some of the smaller fit outs where we've had to just go in and for some certain clients do restaurants for them. I've always been involved in the project management of it, but not in the design side. I'm always on the execution and the project management, cost management, and that side. So my thinking of this was I live in Las Vegas, and not everyone knows about the multi-billion-dollar projects on the Strip, but there are hundreds of projects going on from $1 million to $150 million off of the Strip, and many restaurants are getting refurbished, remodeled, refit. And I saw an opportunity that if I have some good people with me, that we could offer a service that would be good for the clients and give them a return on their investment. So when I spoke to Lou, and then he said, well, I said, my goal really is to offer this statewide, not just in Vegas. And he said, well, I've got a bunch of guys I know, and between all of us, we can pretty much get anywhere in America pretty quickly. And we've got, a structural engineer, as he said, they're covering 26 states already. So we're well set up and ready to respond. And I think it's going to be good for the clients because, as you said, if somebody contacts me, I just pass them to Lou or to James or to Garrett, whoever is the respective person. They don't need to have all 7 companies involved on their project. On some projects, it might just be a structural thing. We just pass it to James. It's a true collaboration. We're not making markups on markups. I get no commissions. The guys don't get commissions from each other. It's just guys want to help each other. I think the construction industry needs more of that. We're all very experienced in what we do, and it's my pleasure if I can get. I deal with my internet. I've got a big marketing team. We do a lot of marketing. I talk to architects because we provide architects with architects and architectural support. We're speaking to architects, designers every day of the week. So if I can recommend these guys in and get them on a project, it's my pleasure. Why not? And I know they're all respected, reputed in what they do. So that's where we come in. And we obviously, if they get a job, if it's a big enough job and they need me to help with the drawings or the BIM on the project or the 3D renderings, or the client wants some project management or cost management, we can get involved in that side, because all of us, the whole 7 of the guys plus me, our services complement each other. There's no conflict between it. So it works really well. So that's where I come into it, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Now, for the meat of kind of the discussion, we'll talk about, we'll lead off with Dylan talking about some of his food hall expertise. And y'all feel free to add or contribute to the conversation, but I think this is where we get to see some of the magic, the Magnificent Seven. So, yeah, Dylan, go ahead and lead us off.
Yeah. So, before I started Bayard, I was working directly for a food hall company by the name of Urban Space. Worked with them for a few years, and I'd actually designed for them previously in some of my past lives, different consulting firms I've worked with. I'd done the first 2 Urban Space food halls in New York. And so really just over the course of the last 10, 12 years, working through different models of food halls from single operator, multi-operator, and how these all come together. And then and that's just from the seat of a designer for what myself and Garrett do for putting people's and equipment into place and making sure that they have the best experience and the best guest experience, to Lou's type of work with the architectural layout, the programming that we would all do, the bar work and everything like that. But then going in house with Urban Space and beginning to carry a new aspect to my knowledge and expertise in terms of development, right? Because I'm engineer by education, construction by background when I got out of engineering school, because I realized I didn't want to sit at a desk and draw. James, no disrespect, but that one wasn't for me. And so I treated construction as my master's. Getting in there and starting to understand how things come together, and then looking out and finding, divine intervention, if you want to bring it back to that, Lou. I certainly wouldn't oppose that. Or, the person that I met, 12 years ago and brought me into this field. and just working on all these projects, large to small. Garrett mentioned it earlier, just doing a coffee kiosk up to programming something like the Sphere, or amusement, right? And just how all those things come together, and starting to look at things at from the smallest scale to where do you put the drip coffee and the hot water, all the way up to, okay, now we're planning an entire space and we're putting in a food hall, always the big question: do you put the bar up front or the coffee bar up front? And then you go from there, right? And that's where you're talking about your day parts. Or similarly in a complex or a campus type setting, are you putting pizza in the center because everybody's going to walk by it, or do you put pizza on the outskirts and make sure that halal is in the center, and so everybody walks by it and goes, you know what, I want to get a cup of that, I want to get I want to get my skewer. But just those conversations and how those all come together and feed into the different things that we all do, right? Because now, where did I just put all the hoods? Where's structure coming into it? Lou, how are we lighting all of these things? Hey, Colin, good luck building it. Here you go. Tossing it back over the fence. So, it's all equal parts of the same complex equation that we all come together on, and it's just, is it, are we looking at one vendor, or are we looking at 38 vendors, as it were, with the Fontainebleau?
Okay, that makes sense. And Garrett, what's your view on, like, say, we'll stick with the food hall example. You bring some expertise that just makes the project flow a lot smoother. You have a lot of creative solutions, I'm sure.
Yeah, whenever we're approaching something like this, just like what Dylan said, is just trying to understand what those concepts are, kind of where it starts, and what the owner, what the client end goal is. And so I think that we're always making sure that we're keeping our eye on the ball, so to speak, and checking that list twice, to make sure that every time that we make a decision or make a design implementation, that it's following that ethos that was set out to begin with. And so I think that from there, we really are just wanting to make sure that we're concentrating on what those needs are, and then from there, kind of just putting this puzzle together. You have one vendor, you have 5 vendors. One of those, with the food hall example, the biggest thing is how many people are going to be in there, how many people are going to be working, and do they all understand their role and what they are allowed and not allowed to do, which, Dylan, I'm sure you have much experience with. And I've done a few in my day, and that's kind of one of the things that I had a learning curve on. And once you get that understanding, though, basically you collaborate with the team. We collaborate with other consultants, amongst the group here, and we have these discussions about what past experiences have been. And so I think that having that sort of pool to draw from definitely is a benefit within us. But our approach is really just let's dig in those details, ask those questions up front as early as possible as we can, because the earlier you get those answered and you can follow those throughout the project lifecycle, the success rate is that much better.
Well, and I think I'm just going to piggyback on kind of what Garrett, expand upon something that Garrett's starting to talk about there too, is I think at the end of the day, and we're all just scratching the surface on these, these interrelationships and how our companies work together. But we're all coming at this from a point of satisfying the end user, right? Mm-hmm. And because I know I say this, and we all have our own version of this, which is there's going to be a day at which I leave, and it's going to be your house now, and you live here every day, and I'm gone. I want to have left you with the best house that you could possibly have, and that's everybody here, right? That's the those of us who are sitting here, and the 3 who aren't here today, they were on last time. We're all looking at that, and we all have that expertise, that knowledge. And Garrett and I collaborating about something on the food service equipment, and when he and I start talking about the triangles inside a food hall, inside that stall, inside that 160 square feet, what are we doing in that triangle? And then but also being realistic with the operators. You cannot have a 25 item menu. You cannot. Now, if you could do 5 items, if you could do the same 5 items 5 different ways, a bowl, a wrap, a salad, if you can do that, yeah, you can get to 25 menu items, right? And in a food hall setting, don't be afraid of scarcity. Now, we're talking about the Fontainebleau, and you don't want scarcity necessarily. Maybe on some seasonal items, but your steak always wants to be there. Maybe you're okay with your tomahawk running out, right? But you always got to have the center cut. You got to have these little things along the way, and so that's where we all just kind of come together and reflecting ideas, off of one another, and being able to call James, right? And then we haven't encountered this yet, but being able to have James in my network now and call him and say, hey, I'm thinking of something crazy, and I'm working on this K through 12 in Pittsburgh, right? And it's this school that's doing good in the community, and so we're helping them out. But I have this complex situation with a fan, right? And where I'm putting it and how I'm getting to it, and now I have to get through this. How do we get there? And I trust that he, like everybody else here, is going to care about the client that I'm coming forth with, that we're going to have the same, we've got the same end result, right? He may not be sitting with them day to day, week to week, and he knows that I am, and that he wants to deliver for me, for them, and for, in this very specific instance, these kids who are going to be there every day, their parents who are sending them to the school every day. So I think, that's another big thing with this group, is just having that sort of, at the end of the day, I get to walk away and go home. It looks great from my house, right? Colin, how many of your tradesmen have said that? It looks great from my house, it doesn't matter how crooked the tile is, look great from my house. But we have that luxury of leaving, whereas this operator is going to stay there and live there. And it means a lot to me to be able to say that, hey, this is the best house that I can build for you guys.
Nice. And coming over to Jim, I'm just, my mind is blown at like the value engineering that you guys are able to bring to the table by combining forces.
Mhm.
And having worked in data centers in California, structural engineers are my best friends. So, Jim, I'm sure you've seen so many different things, and you're bringing so much to the table. What value, or how does it change your business by being part of a collaborative like this?
Well, we have always been willing to go to where the work is, and so we're based out of just our one office here in Olympia. But as I mentioned, our company is licensed in 26 different states because the power of the internet has been allowing us to go to those places and get those licenses and do work all over the country. And so that was part of the value that I bring to the group, is that I can back up the structural needs of pretty much any project that anyone else in the group is working on. And if I don't have a license yet in your state or wherever the project is located, let me know. Give me a couple of months and I can get one. And the thing that has been really interesting is that our business, our company, has, you think of structural engineering companies, most of them just want to design a building. And you can see in the photo behind me, that's an example of an existing building. It was built in the 60s. We did a seismic upgrade for it, and then designed the apartment buildings that are next to it. You can see the shorter brick building next to it. That building has a restaurant that was installed in the ground floor of that tower, and oddly enough, we were not consulted on it. No one asked us about it. We weren't involved, but we could have been. And so there are some projects where, as a structural engineer, we do the big frame and then we're out of the way and nobody ever talks to us again. But there are other projects that we've been lucky enough to be involved in where we are only designing one piece. Like Lou mentioned, there was a project in Bellevue, Washington that he and I worked on together where I did structural supports for all of the kitchen equipment, and that was my only piece of that project. But that then led to, well, now we need to fix the roof, now we need to make changes to the structure, now we've got a lot of different things that we're starting to touch on. And it's through my experience of having designed an entire building as well as just parts and pieces of buildings. And we do, not just equipment support design, but structural components as well, like window glazing systems and structural supports for rooftop units and things like that. So that kind of experience is really the power that I can bring to this group, because more often than not, the kind of stuff that you guys are going to be working on, or that we'll be working on together, will be to support the equipment that is going into some of these new food halls and food service spaces that you're creating.
And that becomes the unique challenge to it, is it's like, hey, we don't just have one kitchen with one set of banked hoods back to back. It's the fact that we got a kitchen here, kitchen there, kitchen up there, kitchen down here. We've got bar equipment, walk-in cooler, all these things. And it's making sure that we have that load across all of those individual places, that the building is rated, for that potential.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the one thing too is the drainage is very important, and a lot of these larger things, if they're existing or even new, going to be built, they have pre-stressed slabs, and you can only put holes in certain areas. And so that's what I always see a value with Jim too. There might be, like you're saying, Dylan, several places everywhere, but we're doing, we got to penetrate that floor. And so those things, again, that's a structural engineer's, charge. So yeah, it can be quite elaborate, as you guys know, on some of these larger projects, especially retrofits.
Yeah, we
Great.
stole my thunder. I was going to mention that we just got done doing a 30,000 square foot facility where basically we had to put all the drainage within a 14 by 14 foot square throughout the facility, and we had to design the entire kitchen around floor troughs essentially.
Yeah.
So, it's critical that we have that upfront, just those upfront discussions and information in line, because if not, it's just going to cause delay after delay.
A great point, Garrett. All right, I'll pose the next question to Lou, and I'll probably have Colin chime in on this. So somebody wants to work with the Magnificent Seven. First of all, where do they find you? And secondly, how are the scopes built as far as between the seven and
Okay. Well, there's examples depending of here. I have two of them, but we already kind of talked about the food hall. But the fact that in the initial, master planning, depending on the size, it could be, Dylan first, and then Garrett if we need more, or just one, and then see with my architectural expertise for the code issues, how many bathrooms. A lot of times, because a lot of food service consultants are brought in, but the other stuff's maybe thought of already, but it's not enough. Things like that. And see, that's what the point of difference I want to make, that we are different. We do not want to be brought in by an architect necessarily. We want to be the first in, because more often than not, these larger projects, you don't even get to talk to. I don't have that experience. You guys, other guys do, of never getting to talk to a client hardly, and that's wrong. That's a big deficit in our industry, and everybody knows this. There's not something that's just this big elephant in the room. No. We are the experts. We are the ones who are going to drive your revenues with this F&B. So we have to be first. We have to ask all these questions and not be relegated to not having much client contact, not even seeing a menu, not even, yeah. And I know a lot of these places, I don't see how they even can think about not having either some kind of a chef or somebody on board when they're designing these menus. It's crazy to me, but it happens all the time. You guys all know it. And that's one of our point of differences that we want to be, is we want to, and there's a lot of these larger projects, we might not want to get involved because we can't get these parameters that are going to help the client. We can, and that's part of my job, is because you guys have all elected me as the lead consultant for this. And so that's part of the project. I would ask first, okay, when Colin sends it to me, I'd say, okay, let me talk to them and then get these parameters and say, this is why we believe that we should be the lead firm up front, especially proof of concept, any of that kind of stuff. And then we can, if you have an architect you like or whatever, we can bring all that in. But back to specifics. So for example, a hotel project, full hotel, say it has 5 restaurants, four bars, rooftop bar, so it's going to have a large kitchen. Well, that one I would refer probably to Garrett. And then for the bars, of course, who's not on the call, Rick. I would be involved with the restaurants. And then again, we could have Garrett, he does restaurants too. And of course, we need structural. But if we already have the parameters and they're correct to what we need to know, information from the client, then we wouldn't need Craig or Kevin involved. So that would be the one. But if we from scratch, like I got a client up here, they're independent owner. They have 5-6 flags. I met them for doing a nightclub for a comedian in one of their spaces. They have Marriott, they have other flags, but they're going to be doing in the next 2 or 3 years 3 or 4 new hotels, and they're very interested. I met with the head of operations. He is very interested in the Mag 7, so I gave him some information. So it's things like that could be from the beginning. Yes, they have a brand, and of course those, but is there F&B? How much they have pretty much full control of that. And so that would be another good example. But then on smaller projects, we might need 3 of us. If it's a bar, restaurant, but they need a concept. Then again, I know a lot of graphic designers and branding people. I'm involved with them quite a bit, and vice versa. And so I have one right now that I'm just putting the fee proposal together here as we were for our meeting. And they need logo, they need you know, branding and all that kind of. So again, and I know you guys have some of those things too, but that's the thing that I can talk to the client and said, hey, we have, besides our core collaboration, we have other people that we can bring in, and our own F&B. If we have too many, I reached out back when I went to, I was down in Miami for 2 days in early, was it November, with Arctic, and I talked to a gentleman that I've known for many years. He has a firm in Indianapolis, and I said, hey, you know, if we get too busy, we can. That's the thing about our group. We have 3 of us that are FCSI, Food Service Consultants Society International members, and that's an international group. We belong to the Americas group, which is North America, South America, and Canada. So we can draw on that people that you know, within that group and organization. And a lot of times they need an MAS, which is a management advisory, which we have. Our 2 guys are there. They don't have the designation, but they are MAS consultants. But again, it just depends on the project. And if we have 4 or 5 things going, we could actually, you know, refer with everybody's blessing in the group and say, hey, we're too busy, but we can, you know, who would you guys recommend within that, you know, organization that we know that, you know, we could recommend. So I think that's where we have global reach because of that. And then of course we have national reach within our group. So yeah, every project will be different, but there's certain core, you know, things that we'll need or not need. But yeah, for myself, like say, it's been so long since I've designed a kitchen, a large, you know, kitchen for hotel and stuff like that. You know, that's not, you know, Garrett knows that really well, and you know, Dylan, and so yeah, again, that's our whole point. It's collaborative. I have no problem of deferring it all to somebody else. You know, that's no big deal. So that's kind of, yeah, some examples.
Thanks, Lou. And Colin, where can people find out more about how to get in touch with you guys?
Well, they can contact any of the individual members of the consortium. Everybody's got their own company, but we sort of taken up the branch, and we do a lot of LinkedIn and social media posts for the food and beverage, for the Magnificent Seven, and where they are contacting Admore Services, my company. But if a contact comes through to me, and I would, if it was for a bar, I'm gonna pass it over to Rick. If it's a structural thing, you'll see to James. And if it's something bigger than that needs reviewing for more than one person, and I would consult with Lou, and Lou would be the one to advise me what's the best ratio of people on the job. To, you know, we don't want to scare somebody away that I think because we're 7 consultants, we're going to be very expensive. We all operate independently. So if, as Lou said, if he can do the job himself, he can do it. If it's better suited to Garrett, we'll just pass it to Garrett. So I don't want anyone to get mistaken that, oh, there's a lot of consultants here, we're going to be paying a lot of money for a kitchen. No, what you've got is a lot of muscle and power behind each one of us, and we as a group are able to refer back to each other for advice, for recommendations. So you get a lot of extra support on top of the individual expertise that is there at no extra cost. And I think Dylan said it earlier, all of us are very focused on the return on investment for the client. And I know that the other guys who are not on the call now are very experienced in feasibilities, and I'm on that cost side of things as well. I'm always working with the numbers, and all the guys are focused on that. And you know, they're all, as Lou said, everyone's a Christian man here. Everyone's got the right intentions to do right by the client. So it's a shame if we can't get to the clients more upfront, because we're the guys who can really put money in their pocket, because our interest is to get them the best possible return they can for their money, based on years and years of experience from a wide variety of people here. So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to us, you can contact me through our website, which is just www.admoreservices.com, or email me at cadley@admoreservices.com, or any of the other individual companies in the group. And you can find us on my website. There's a page where all the guys are mentioned on my website. There's a page there for the food and beverage design. And I would emphasize again that Admiral Services, we don't design, because we actually work with a lot of designers and architects, and we support them. So we execute. The guys do that. So we can do the design through Lou and Garrett and Dylan and the other guys. The designing team are there.